Hey guys, Hailey Lain, aka Key Black here, and I've got another episode of Off the Cuff. This time I'm going to be talking about the music of Behind the Curtain. So I want to preface all of this stuff. We've talked before about the whole thing about me starting and finishing the song in 48 hours, and while that is technically true as far as starting to put pen to paper, that's not really the entire story. I already told you guys about the whole thing about me not wanting anything to do with Bendy anymore. I'm kind of done with it after the 5th chapter, and I'm like, the story's not really going where I wanted it to, and I'm kind of bummed about that, so I'm just gonna kind of distance myself from it. It wasn't until, if you guys were at that Picardo stream, when Jess said, hey Hailey, why don't you try to draw Bendy again? And I went, fine, and I was like, I actually enjoyed drawing that, okay? Then a couple months later she goes, well, why don't you continue Welcome Home? That prompt, it's like letting your dog off the leash at the dog park and they just bolt in a direction. I basically took that as my prompt to unleash this deluge of ideas and of inspiration that I had been putting a cork in for, 2.5 years longer. I had basically been telling myself I really don't have any interest in this anymore. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I'm done. I'm tired of it. But I wasn't done with it at all. And so basically that entire time I had been marinating in these ideas for how would I continue it. Well, I would want it to be Angel singing this time probably. And like, oh, well, if Welcome Home covered the whole actual return, what comes next? Well, it's actually seeing what's deep inside the studio. And so when I started putting pen to paper, well, it was in the form of me recording little snippets of the melody and then like playing them back to myself and then stringing them together in MuseScore, but you know what I mean. When I started putting pen to paper with the actual melody ideas as they were coming up, they were just popping out. Like it was like they were already there. And so I just kind of put them all together. The lyrics were already in there too. They were coming in right along with the melody. So when I started writing them, I knew that I was gonna have to say something like, now you've hung your hat and you've seen the writing on the wall. And it just kind of spilled out from there. I knew that Angel was gonna be leading Henry into the next thing to discover. I knew that from there it was going to be a sequential discovery of all the horrors that were in the studio, and so to go along with that, the lyrics had to be kind of narrating and describing in sort of a cheeky way, this is the mess you left behind, and so it had to be flirty, it had to be sexy, it had to be cheeky, it had to be also able to switch on a dime and suddenly go into the really hyper scary bit, like when KaleiWorks' projector-headed cousin suddenly appears and starts chasing down Henry and is about to kill him. Like, it's gotta be able to go from this, yeah, it's pretty bad here, you don't really know what you're in for, do you? Into, here's what you're in for. And so what I had at the end of those 2 days was the result of 2.5 years of backed up inspiration just gushed out into a MuseScore file, a very simple piano MIDI. And so when it came time to find an arranger, Alicia Michelle actually offered to do the arrangement from scratch, taking my MuseScore file, the piano MIDI with the percussion that I'd already written in there, and develop that into a full big band orchestra arrangement. And when I started hearing it with like the big brass and the violins in the back and all the piano ditties and everything, I was like, oh, this is it, this is what we need. So when it came time to start reviewing it with Jess, the first thing that she noted was like, this is great, but what would make it even better, especially on those big hits, is if we could get some live brass. And so we're thinking, oh man, where the hell are we gonna get some live brass? Like, it's really expensive to hire out bands. Then we find out that Cody Fullbrook plays trombone. Now, Cody Fullbrook, if you guys don't know, he does a lot of interviews of creative types online, be they like comic artists or musicians, etc., etc. You should go check out his channel. He does all these interviews there. I'll link it in the description. But he had just finished interviewing Jess. And now Jess, I've mentioned before, she's a published author. She had just published Clara and the Nutcracker. And I'm gonna shamelessly plug that too. If you guys like The Mummy, if you guys like Romancing the Stone, definitely check that one out. It is absolutely, it's delightful. I love it. Yeah, anyways, they had just finished this interview, and as they were kind of wrapping up, it turned out Cody actually knew my stuff too. And so Jess goes, well, dude, why don't I just bring her into the conversation? And so she did, and so I start chatting with both of them at the same time, and we find out Cody plays trombone. And so as soon as that came up, Jess was like, dude, can you play for this track that we're doing? And he said yes. So we got a live trombonist on the track. The live brass really filled out all the sections. And yeah, one of the things that Jess really wanted for the big, scary chase and fight sequence, whenever Henry's being thrown into pipes and stuff, the majority of the song is this kind of slow, sultry, slinky kind of stuff. And then, of course, there's the leitmotifs. Had to have those in there because we knew that the audience was going to be looking for the demon. And then, where is he? Where is he? Ah, there he is! So to contrast with those, Jess was like, we gotta really get that heavy brass in there for when the big bad monster shows up. And then that resulted in this really nice shift in tone from and then as soon as that cuts off and it's the big bad clinically mad, the greatest show you've ever seen. Nice and light and creepy. And then of course that sets the stage for when the demon comes barreling back in and I think as Jess put it, yanks the tone of the song right back in his favor. Actually, speaking of that, there's a lot about the storyboards development that I want to talk about as well. So I'm going to save that for the next video and probably cap this one off here. Guys, thank you for watching. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much.